Good evening, and welcome to So What's Your Story? Tonight we're talking with Brent Jones, who has just an exciting testimony. I really encourage getting to know him. But Brent, to kind of kick it off, what was your life like before you came to Christ?
Well, I was born in 1970 to a very healthy farming community by my parents and my grandparents, and started going to church when I was 8 years old. My brother is 8 years younger than me. And so I had 10 years of a Bible background from the time I was 8 till I was 18 years old. But suffered a series of what I would consider abandonment issues. When I was 13, my parents divorced. When I was 14, my mother remarried, so she was out of the picture. When I was 15, my biological dad killed himself on Christmas Day. And when I was 17, my grandfather, my other father figure, died right about the time my first girlfriend left me. So then when I started going to college, the church that I'd been affiliated with since I had moved to Austin, they disfellowshipped me, and they sent that message through my mother. So all these things, I decided just chuck the whole thing and live life on my own. And I saw the end of that as I was very codependent. I really needed you to like me. And I started flipping that around to the other side when I was about 22, 23, as I started working my way through girlfriends, realizing that I could be the one who gathered people that were codependent. I think they call them narcissists. It's like a very predatory mindset. And I got very good at it. I'm a chess player, a gamer, all that. And I took all these listening skills that I had developed and kind of a good moral code, and I used that for self adulation. And I guess what really happened when I was 26 years old, I paid $300 to abort my child, to kill my baby. And that was where the voices in my head really started taking off. And the only way I found to shut it down was intravenous drug use through the methamphetamine. And that's when I started turning mean. I started getting to where became a thief. I've been in and out of jail a total of 3.5 years of my life. And I got to where I didn't care. I had no empathy, nothing. And I made drugs, sold them, and I would use anybody and anything in between me and what I wanted. I'd use people up. I became basically a emotional vampire. I just sucked the life out of somebody and then move on. And finally, I walked out of my meth lab where I was making drugs, and I went out into my backyard, got on my face, and cried out to the Lord, if you're real and you've got something for me, something has to happen, because I am now a self-seeking, irredeemable, narcissistic monster. And that's where I ended up. And it was horrible to see myself like that. And I guess about a week after that prayer, I was at a gas station getting gas, and 4 unmarked cars pulled up and slammed me to the ground and threw me into the car. And that was the beginning of a new life for me right there. That's where things changed. So that was basically, in a nutshell, what I was like before.
Yeah. So how did you come to meet Jesus? I mean, obviously they threw you in jail, and you were there for a significant amount of time in prison. How did you meet Jesus in prison?
I guess about 2 weeks into the county jail, I recognized the divine intervention, because they caught me with no drugs on me. They caught me clean. And so that was impossible. I mean, for 2 years, I'd been on the run from another warrant, and I'd always had weapons. I always had things going on in my life, and they didn't catch me with anything. So I saw the divine prince, and there was nobody in my cell, and I got down on my face at Travis County here in Austin, Texas, and I just broke. I finally broke. It was like my heart just came loose, and I just became a defendant in the court of heaven, so to speak, where I just started in tears and just brokenness, started crying out to the Lord to save me. And he started bringing things to my attention. I mean, the abortion, the stealing, the how I abandoned my mother, my brother, my stepfather, even my grandmother. I was an abandoner. The things that had started me on this thing, I had become. And he was forgiving me for it. And as it was coming in, all this pain and all this wrath and all this condemnation that I'd been running from, I had an open vision. I mean, it was like me sitting here talking to you now, of this wave coming at me of just God's wrath. And right before it got to me, Jesus on the cross took it, just wham, right there. And I realized supernaturally that I had been, that's what the cross was about, raised in church. And I realized that was what the cross was about. It absorbed that wrath. And it was the most freeing. I realized at that moment that I'd been born again, because I came up off of there and I was a new man. And it wasn't 3 days later that there was a black preacher named Pastor Wilkinson that, they come in as volunteers to the jail, and he asked if anybody wanted to receive the Holy Spirit. I was like, whatever that is, I wanted whatever. And I went forward, and he grabbed me and he got into my ear, and he's just like, you just let go, son. You just let the Spirit come into you. And it happened. I mean, it was amazing. It was like white lightning coming into my soul. And I don't know if I fell down or what, but I woke up just so clean. And now I'll go back to my cell, and I had a New King James Bible. All the stuff that I'd learned as a child, I knew it, but it never meant anything to me. Now all of a sudden, all you that are weary and heavy laden, come and I will give you rest. And these promises of Jesus Christ and the word just came out and just jumped off the page, and I became a new man. It was beautiful. And so the 2 years that I did at that time, I was another creature. I had totally empathetic. I would help people with their letters. I learned everybody's names when I got sent to the Texas Department of Corrections. I got to where I was in tanks of men, rooms of men of 54 men. I would get to know all their names. I would help them write letters. I would teach them the Bible as I saw it, and it was amazing. It was an amazing time of my life. And I got to experience many different worldviews. I was locked up with Muslims, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, you name it. And so I was being challenged by my biblical worldview through others' worldview. And it really solidified my faith by the time I was released 2 years later in 2008.
So what are you doing these days?
Now, I got married 3 years after I got out of prison. I got married to a woman that works in the courthouse where I accepted Jesus. I think that is amazing. Of all the people to meet at a church camp, it was her. But I did have the foundation. When I did get out in 2008, I was a year in a transitional halfway house called Texas Reach Out Ministry. And that really set the foundation. I started developing mentors and people that would speak into my life and I would listen to. And so now, instead of being the narcissist, now I was exactly the opposite, because I wanted input. I wanted the wisdom that other people had to put into my life. And it's been amazing. And so about 6 months after my wife and I got married, our house burned to the ground in Bastrop, Texas. It was 1,700 houses were lost in a very big fire. And we realized that we wanted to be in the disaster relief world. We saw the people that came to help us, the Mennonites, the Catholics, the firefighters. Everybody was just so into the community, and that started my life of really set me off. About 3.5, 4 years out of prison, I really started getting a hunger for going in, not just to like major disasters, but also into prisons and start giving back to my community. And during this time, I started a business of a transport business, hauling like goods and services with a 40-foot flatbed on the back of a pickup truck. And I went severely into debt doing that. I thought I could make it. I thought that I heard the Lord's voice, but looking back, I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I really just made a mistake. And I ended up way down into debt. And so these last 10 months or so, I've devoted to driving 18-wheelers out in the oil fields, doing dirt work, drive bulldozers and heavy equipment. I transport, and I've been getting out of a large amount of debt. We were about $80,000 into debt, into credit card debt, and now we're at almost nothing. We'll be done paying this off in about 2 months. So I'm very, very proud of that, and I'm ready to get back into ministry full time because that's where my heart's at. My heart is in the chaplaincy. I'm a full-blown chaplain for multiple agencies. I'm a prison minister, and I love people around me. I'm very solid in my training with evangelism and really
and you're
getting into people's lives.
You're applying to come on staff with the Navigators?
Yes. I feel like that there's the depth of the discipleship integrity that Navigators has is untouchable. I've looked everywhere. I really, really want to be mentored, and I want to be mentoring others through the discipleship tree. Discipling disciple makers. I mean, come on, that's the best of the best right there.
So how can we pray for you?
We're going to need wisdom, of course, and guidance as to our next steps. We are going to be needing finance, of course, in however that manifests. I'm not afraid of work. Obviously, I work one job. I'm working 80 to 90 hours a week right now. So, work to me, anything under that to me is part-time. So I'm willing. The 40 hours a week to me sounds like nothing, but yeah, I could use the more finances I get in outside of my own labor, the more I can put into going deeper with the disciples that are already in my life. And I'm discipling men right now. And it's over the phone as I drive and stuff like that. It's been beautiful, and I give them stuff to do and they do it. So anyway, just wisdom in that I would go deeper with the relationships that I have now, and that the Lord would bring in the right people into my life to speak life into my wife and I. And I believe that's something that the Navigators is very already pre-positioned to help us in that area.
All right. Well, thank you, Brent. As I've said, we'll be praying for you, praying for your wisdom to go forward, and praying for finances to sustain you in your transformation into the Navigators and other ministries, working with the Navigators. So thank you for taking time and telling us about your story.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you so much.
All right. Goodbye.